Today we got a 06 Tacoma. Gotta pull the fuel tank on it. We've had some starting issues where it won't start. We have confirmed that we are not getting fuel up under the hood from the tank, and we have confirmed that we are getting spark. So we know that the problem is coming from the fuel tank, probably the fuel pump. So we're going to take it off, take the tank down, and look at the fuel pump and see if we can see anything obvious, and if necessary, replace the fuel pump. Quick run through what we're going to be doing. We're going to take this cover off just to give us a little more room to work. There's just these 4 bolts there, and then we've got your 2 fuel lines here. We have the filler neck and another line here. And on top of the fuel sending unit, there should be another hose up there. And then the 4 bolts that will ultimately drop the tank. One of them is right here. And we'll show you where the other ones are later. Start by dropping the skid plate here, the plastic skid plate. 12mm bolts for them. Next, we'll disconnect these 2 fuel lines. They have this little cover on them. Gotta kind of work it off. And then we have these little quick disconnects here. Next, what we'll do is remove the filler neck. It's got a little hose clamp back here with a 10mm or Phillips head. They give you a little access hole on this bracket. You're probably not going to be able to get most sockets in there because it's not big enough, but I think I can get this little hex driver in there. And then we'll also remove the quick disconnect on that guy. It's going to be a little tight, but we'll get that as well. I decided I'm going to move this little bracket here. It's going to make that quick disconnect a little easier to get to. Take a quick disconnect with a grain of salt. They're not exactly quick, but it looks like this has like a clip here, but it looks like mine's busted off. Try and get that out of the way. Next, what we'll do is we'll start lowering the tank. There's 2 bolts. This is kind of on a hinge. The strap and that strap down there is on a hinge. So you want to take these bolts, back them out almost all the way, and then we'll start dropping this thing little bit by little bit here. One thing I just saw is up here we have a little pin, cotter pin and a pin. Same thing with here, cotter pin and a pin. Slowly take that out just so that we can hinge this sucker down. So we're way up on top of the tank now. I just took this back pin out and dropped the back end down. You can see right on top of the, let's see if we can get you in there. Right here, there's another disconnect. We're gonna have to get that loose because it's holding us from dropping it completely. We're up on top of the tank. Got this guy undone now. And the last thing holding this is this cable right here. It's into this main harness here, but this looks like it's a cover, so I think we need to see if we can pop this cover off somehow. Hopefully that thing just clips in there. whole tank should come out now. Now we got the tank out. Here's a quick rundown of all the stuff we took off. The 2 rear fuel lines there. The clip at the very end. Fuel line here. The filler cap. And then the big fuel line here. And then obviously the straps. That's it. And this is the fuel sending unit, or the fuel pump. So that's what we're going to go investigate now. I'm going to try and start disassembling this fuel sender here. Pop these lines out just to get them. It's got a little lock. You kind of have to push that guy and then turn it around the next one, and then just follow it. Goes to that one too. Just follow it around. Looks pretty good on the outside here. All the hoses are in excellent condition. So we'll take this lid off here and then we'll take a peek on the inside. So after we remove this fuel pump, we realized that we don't actually have any gas in the tank. And that's odd because the gauge, when we were troubleshooting all of this, it had gas shown in the tank. So what this tells me is that it's likely this little float. It's got a little resistance potentiometer there, and what happens sometimes is these little potentiometers have a dead spot in them, or they're just, you know, they get worn out. And but there's a way to check that, and we can check by hooking a gauge up to the probes there and checking resistance off of what we know it's supposed to be, and that might be able to tell us if that's the actual fault that we're having. So we're testing out the fuel sending unit here on the resistance at E, which is the float all the way down like this. We're supposed to be reading 107 to 112 ohms. You can see we're reading about 91. And the light is supposed to come on at 98 ohms. So this is why I read 1/8 of a tank, even though the tank was completely empty. And the light hadn't even come on because it wasn't reading the correct resistance. And then at half, it's supposed to be 59 ohms, which is about here. So we're not terribly off there. And then full is supposed to be 5 to 6 ohms. And we're pretty close there. So, but towards the low end, which is where we were located with fuel, is where we're having the problem. So we're sure that it's the fuel sending unit at this point. So now that we've confirmed that it's the fuel sending unit here with our electric meter test, I went and picked up a new one. It's about $100 from the dealership. And that is the part number. But should be super quick to swap out. It's just got a little clip here. Just pop that out, and this thing just falls right out like that. New one should be equally as easy to clip in. There we go, just like that. And now we're ready to plug it back in and reassemble. Now a lot of people, they would have just said, oh, you know, why don't you just replace the whole pump? It's a $350 pump, and that's kind of what I had envisioned myself doing at the start. But as you can see, it's not always the pump that's the problem. We were able to check beforehand, and we did hear that the pump was running, so we knew that it was at least getting power. But you know, a $350 part turned into just a $100 sending unit that took, you know, just a couple more minutes to replace than a full pump would have been. So moral of the story is, don't just go buy a pump before you do this job. It might be as simple as that. When you're setting this guy back in, make sure your seal is real clean there. And then this has a little tit here just on one side, and that's how you know you're lined up. And after you get that in, you can screw your cap back on.